Welcome, friends. I'm Cheryl Mitchell, one of the founding members of the Hogan Award Committee, and it's my total pleasure to be here today with Dr. Lydia Clemmons, who was last year's award recipient. I just wanted to set the frame a little bit. It was my honor to work with Con Hogan for 10 years as his deputy at the Agency of Human Services. And Con was a man deeply committed to people working together in their communities, using data to improve results, and taking a very creative and entrepreneurial approach, not just to the business community. He was also a businessman, but also to service. He was also a farmer. He and his wife are musicians, dedicated to their family. Both of their kids have moved and live on the farm that Con and his wife ran. And when we realized that he was reaching the end of his life here in Vermont and on Earth, people felt that it would be wonderful to seek out people in Vermont who really exemplified many of the qualities that he had. It's an amazing privilege for me today to introduce you to Dr. Lydia Clemmons, who is also a farmer, a dedicated public servant, somebody who's deeply committed to her family, cares about the arts and spreading that culture, and like Con also has worked internationally about improving the lives of children and families. So I'm going to just read to you the vision statement and give you a sense of why Dr. Clemmons was selected as the award recipient last year. Forgive me for putting my glasses on here for a second. Dr. Lydia Clemmons embodies the true heart of Vermont. Creativity, wit, and community are woven into all that she does in her day-to-day work stewarding the Clemmons family farm and building connections across the state. Her parents bought the farm in 1962, choosing to raise their 5 Black children in the northern mountains, and sank deep roots in Vermont. As a teenager, Lydia's deep interest and curiosity led her to Stanford, then to Africa. As a medical anthropologist, she has worked globally, integrating arts and culture into effective public health and social change programming. Her deep expertise in ethnographic research and community development, along with her passionate commitment to arts and culture as transformative community resources, is woven together in her work today. In 2013, Lydia came home to help with the farm and has changed Vermont. Her vision is to grow community, grow culture, and grow connection in the hills of Vermont from one of the rare Black-owned farms in the United States. So welcome, and thank you for taking the time to talk with us today. We know we can't do justice at all to the work that you're doing in the time that we have, and we will send our viewers to the website about your programs and your farm afterwards. But I'm wondering if you could just start by giving us an overview of the kind of work that you're doing now.
Well, thank you so much, Cheryl, for that introduction. You pretty much said it all already. The work I'm doing now is really inspired by my childhood growing up here in Vermont and kind of leaving Vermont, working in Africa for 35 years in 20 countries, and then coming back again. As a child, as you mentioned, our family were farmers. And like Con Hogan, my parents blended in farming with a love for the arts. All 5 kids were required to play at least one instrument. I played 2, and to do creative writing and engage in other arts. I went to Africa for 35 years and always integrated arts and culture and my pride for African culture and African peoples into the work I was doing, whether it was writing grant proposals and designing programs, leading programs, providing technical assistance to programs, evaluating programs. Always art and culture was center. And it was, whether it was public health or K through 12 education, or even agriculture and nutrition programs, always finding the things that were shining and merited lifting up as resources in African diaspora art and culture. And so after about 35 years of having this wonderful, adventurous life in Africa, all over the continent, I was called home by my parents. they said, time to come home and join in the family conversation about the future of this farm. And this farm, as you said, is one of the very few Black-owned farms in the state and in the nation. Just 0.4% of all farms in the country are owned by Black people. And that was a statistic I wasn't terribly aware of while I was gallivanting in Africa and doing all of this work, but became aware of when I came home and started listening to my parents. So the first years of my life back in Vermont around 2013, 2014, were just spent listening. And also because I'm an anthropologist, documenting the stories that my parents told about their childhoods, the childhoods of their parents and their grandparents, the core center of farming and how important land was, the desperate tragedy of losing land, or rather having land stolen from you. So I documented those stories, I did my research, I listened, and it didn't take too long after that with a group of friends and my parents to co-found Clemmons Family Farm as a 501c3 nonprofit organization whose focus really is on preserving my parents' legacy. And that legacy is three parts. One part is the farm itself, the physical farm, being stewarded by Black people for Black excellence, Black history, Black art and culture. That's one part of the mission. The second part of the mission is finding, networking, mobilizing, and lifting up the brilliant Black artists who are in Vermont. And the third part of the mission, very important to my parents' legacy, is just building community across differences of race and culture. And so we founded the nonprofit in 2019 and are currently focused on those three parts of the mission. Our programs include K through 12 education, where we focus on an African-American history curriculum that is alive with the arts and the Black artists who bring arts engagements into schools, on the farm for kids' field trips here, or into the communities to share Black history in a way that's accessible, approachable, and that doesn't just focus on the pain and the deep anguish of some parts of our shared history, but also the joy and the resilience and the pride and the achievements of Black history and US history. And so that's a large part of our program. We are also partnering with the Vermont Department of Health in a storytelling project where we use storytelling in the arts to help Black Vermonters, as well as providers, share their experiences with the COVID-19 vaccine. And that project is called Beneath Our Skin, and we'll be sharing the stories very soon in collaboration with Vermont Department of Health to talk about the experience of getting this vaccine in the midst of all of this that has been happening to us as a state, as a nation. Also, farming, of course, and agriculture are very important still. We have over 60 acres of prime agricultural land. These times right now, where we're still emerging from the pandemic, our main crop is, as it has always been, hay, commercial hay. But pre-pandemic, we were rotating wheat, soy, beans, corn in rotation. And we have a wonderful hoop house dedicated to the foods of the African diaspora, which we hope again to revitalize this year and connect to our network of African culinary artists who live right here in Vermont and prepare the most delicious food you can imagine. So that's some of what we're doing now. It's very exciting work. Another big part of the work on that first part of preserving the property is working with the Vermont Land Trust and other stakeholders to really think about the long-term vision for this property. It's currently privately owned, but under a 20-year lease with the nonprofit, so being stewarded by the nonprofit. But what about for the future? What about in the context of food sovereignty? And what about in the context of housing? So we're looking to the future as well.
Wow, it's so inspiring to hear you talk. And to think of all the opportunities that there are for people to learn from you and from other people throughout Vermont. You've really created an amazing network that elevates, as you said, voices that many of us have not heard before. So we're incredibly grateful to you and the Clemmons family farm. I'm wondering if you could take a moment just to talk about, has being an awardee of the Hogan Award been important to you in any way in the past year?
It has been immensely important. And I'm guessing I'm not alone. I'm guessing every awardee is like me. They're surprised because our heads are down. We're focused on the work. We're not thinking about ourselves. We're not even thinking that anybody is noticing what we're doing. We're toiling away, passionate about our work. So to suddenly receive out of the blue, for me, such an important recognition is huge. It's validating, it's affirming. But I'm also very aware that I'm the first Black Vermonter to receive this award, probably the first person of color to receive this award. So I think that's also immensely important, a distinction for me and also for any Black Vermonter or other person of color in the state, hugely important.
And we're so appreciative of the ways that you're helping the white community to understand that there needs to be a different way of doing business together. There needs to be a way of finding the guidance of people from the Black and Indigenous communities as the leaders and following your lead. So we're very grateful to you. You're also the first farmer to ever receive this award. So, and I didn't realize that you played two instruments as a kid. So
Yes.
there have been other people who played instruments, but so that one is not quite. And I guess the other thing that we'd love to ask is, you got obviously a very glowing nomination, but so many people, it was just an aha moment to say, well, of course. And why didn't we do this sooner? What you might recommend to people in terms of nominating somebody else. There's only 3 years of this award left. It was set up to be a 10-year program.
Yeah.
So if you have any thoughts for people in making recommendations.
From my personal experience, I would urge everybody in this state to nominate someone and to focus on the people who are maybe not in the limelight, who are doing great work but aren't being recognized, and who don't necessarily need the recommendation or acknowledgement. They're doing it out of the joy of doing it. But let me tell you, when you nominate someone, whether they receive the award or not, being recognized is suddenly new fuel and new energy to affirm that, hey, what you're doing, you're not crazy and you're not noticed. We appreciate you. That can take you an extra 1,000 miles as someone who is working head down, just trying to do the good work. So I would encourage every Vermonter, please nominate somebody that you admire who might not be in the limelight for this award, and explain why you want to nominate them.
Thank you so much. I would say to people, the nominations will be due by June 27th of this year. We hope that there will be a live award ceremony next fall. We were not able to meet in person with Dr. Lydia Clemmons when she received the award, but she'll be there, hopefully helping to celebrate the next person in line. And we thank you so much for taking the time to be here today, and especially for the incredible work that you're doing in the world.
Thank
In
you
these
so
times when people are so heartsick, it just is inspiring.
Thank you,
Here.
Cheryl, and thank you to all the committee. And it's just such an honor again to be recognized, especially in the name of Con Hogan. Thank you so much.
You're most welcome. And we encourage everybody to take a look at the website. It's just spectacular, and you'll want to be involved in every single program that you read about. And we also want to thank the Community Television Network, something that Con started, for making these interviews possible and getting them out to people all over the state. And to the Vermont Community Foundation. Con was also on the board of that for a while and really helped to move them towards more of a focus on partnership with local communities. So thank you.
Thanks so much.